19th century geologist Charles Lyell was also a lawyer, and Lyell is famous for making status quo among scientists and many of today's Christian denominations the idea that the world's geology reflects an age of the earth much older than the 6,000 years reflected by the Bible. It is a fact that this proposition enabled and greatly influenced Charles Darwin's evolutionary ideas. But was Charles Lyell really approaching geology and the Earth's age from a plainly scientific and objective perspective? No, not at all. And we have the historical, documented proof of it. In his private correspondence, Lyell admitted to the strongly anti-biblical nature of his ideas. Historical documentation reveals that Charles Lyell had a clear agenda to, quote, free the science from Moses. Regardless of the real science of the matter, this is where Charles Lyell was going to take his ideas. Interestingly, he was also deeply concerned, while he attacked Christianity, not to attack Islam. Gee, not much has changed since the 1880s. Lyell wrote about his agenda on the 14th of June in 1830 in a letter to George Poulett Scrope. Listen to these excerpts from that letter. Charles Lyell writes, "I am sure you may get into Quarterly Review what will free the science from Moses. For, if treated seriously, the church party are quite prepared for it. They see at last the mischief and scandal brought on them by Mosaic systems. I was afraid to point the moral as much as you can do in the Quarterly Review about Moses. Perhaps I should have been tenderer about the Koran. Don't meddle much with that, if at all. And if we don't irritate," and he meant the Christian church, "we shall carry all with us. If you don't triumph over them, but compliment the liberality and candor of the present age, the bishops and the enlightened saints will join us in despising both the ancient and modern theologians." It appears quite apparent that Lyell, father of the modern lie of the ancient age of the earth, was involved not in scientific investigation but political manipulation techniques to ensure his unbiblical ideas would ultimately be accepted by the church, clearly by psychological trickery, even though he knew his declarations contradicted the plain teaching of Scripture. Lyell's demonically inspired scheming not only tricked the church into accepting his falsehoods, thus undermining the clear gospel message of Jesus Christ, but Lyell also took geology down a path of pseudoscience for over 100 years, as some geologists now recognize. Listen to the words of Warren Allman, director of the Paleontological Research Institute in Ithaca, New York, and adjunct associate professor of earth and atmospheric sciences at Cornell University. He wrote this in 1993. Quote, "Lyell also sold geology some snake oil. He convinced geologists that all past processes acted at essentially their current rates. This extreme gradualism has led to numerous unfortunate consequences, including the rejection of sudden or catastrophic events in the face of positive evidence for them, for no reason other than that they were not gradual." Yes, Lyell bragged about being able to eventually carry away the church into his deception. Sadly, he was able to do that very thing with a large segment of Christianity. From the beginning, evolution was conceived in purposed deception by the admission of its own founding fathers.
Right, Shalom. First, I'd like to say Ka Halal Yahweh Ba'asham Yavashai Waha Rakah Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. And basically I want to do this video in response to two articles that come up. Firstly, I want to kick off with the scripture. It's in Matthew 10:26. "Fear them not therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known." And we're in the time of the truth being revealed, and there's a lot of truth to come out because there's been a lot of lies. you know, under the rulership of the so-called white man, who is the devil that the Bible speaks of, the whole earth has been cast under a great shadow of falsehood, man. In every area of life, man, nothing has been left undefiled, uncorrupted by deceit and lies. And the so-called white man, especially beginning with the elites, you know, this has been should I say, a organized effort by them to do these things. All right, these things didn't just happen by accident. These lies, this falsehood that has covered the face of the whole earth, has been meted out in a very systematic and methodical way by the elites through their control of various authorities and institutions. And one of the institutions which they control is the institutions of science and the educational system. And pretty much what they've done is use the scientific community to promote new age, which is really not new, to promote old occultic philosophies and push them upon the people, masquerading as science, in an attempt to move the people as far away from the belief in the Bible and the Messiah of the Bible and the God of the Bible. Okay? And that's where you get evolution and all the lies that evolution is built upon. Alright? So I got an article here, man, and every time I see one of these articles, I kind of save it, because every now and again they never stop. They keep pushing it out there for the people. Here's one article from the Independent on the science. This is under the science section. Okay, it should be under the cartoon section. It says human ancestors may have walked like people far earlier than previously thought. Now, first and foremost, this is a lie being built upon a lie, because so-called human or the ancestors of man is man. Alright, there is no, man didn't spring forth from anything else but man. The Most High created men and women in the beginning, and all the men and women which exist on the earth today descend from the first men and women which were created from the dust of the ground, from the minerals, from the elements. We're made of these elements. That's why you eat. When you eat, you're eating the earth. Plants grow from the elements in the earth. You eat the plants, you break the plant or the animal down, those elements become a part of you. Yeah, we are still made of the dust of the ground. Alright? But we replicate according to the flesh. Now, you know, it says it kicks us out of this old paradigm of thinking about human evolution. So basically, they've already established human evolution as if it's some form of fact. So now they're just building upon that lie. And here you know, they gotta, images is everything. They gotta put an image in your mind, because we think in images, and this image solidifies it in the minds of the weak. This is your human, this is your ancestor right here. This is what Esau, the so-called white man, is telling you people with a straight face. This is your ancestor. Alright, with some shit in his hand. Literally. This is analysis of ancient human relative Ardipithecus has revealed despite its tree climbing lifestyle, it was able to walk like a human. Now, I'm not even going to read too much of this. I just want to get a point out. Some ancient humans were able to walk on hind legs without losing their ape-like ability to climb trees, according to new research. Yeah. These people are, and you see, as long as the so-called white man has the money, he's going to continue to pay these scientists to come make up this crap. And as long as they continue to get paid, they're going to continue to make shit up. This is a fact, and this has come out all over the place, man. Climate Gate. You had guys making up artifacts, and it's just what Esau does. It's a liar. Alright. It says analysis of a skeleton belonging to a 4.4 million year old. See, this is what I'm going to address in this particular video. This 4.4 million year old Ardipithecus ramidus. Oh, it's Latin. Oh, it must be so intelligent. Nickname Ardi. Ardi, you know. Hardly more like. Suggested this prehistoric, we're going to deal with that term as well. Prehistoric hominin, something they made up, was able to walk like a human. Now, the whole notion of evolution is a pagan philosophy which is not scientific in any way, shape, or form. There's no fact or basis for it. In fact, it's a fairy tale, and it can only be made plausible by them pushing that it happened so long ago it baffles your mind. That's why it's 4.4 million years ago, 2 billion years ago. And you're like, okay, well, why not, you know? 2 billion or 3 billion years ago. Right? All this craziness, like madness, like really? The skeleton survived 4.4 millions. It didn't degrade. It's just 4.4 million years. Boom, it's just there. But anyway, it's absolute madness, man. Even if it's in a rock, man, 4.4 million years, come on. Like, let's keep it real. But that's what they're saying, right? And then they come up with this prehistoric. You know, you got prehistory. So, what I want to do, firstly, I want to get into this term prehistory. Alright? Because evolution is built upon a false timeline. And that false timeline was set up before Darwin by a guy named Charles Lyell, which I'm gonna bring some information out about him. Now, prehistory is the period of human activity between the use of the first stone tools. You know, first of all, there's still people using stone tools now. See, what Esau tried to do, he tried to make it look like there was a time when people only used stone tools, and then it was iron tools, then it was bronze. That's all BS. That doesn't exist. They've arbitrarily just made that up. That's why they find these different things outside of these ages and they can't explain it, because it's BS. Okay, it's all BS. There is no Stone Age. But you see, you watch movies and cartoons and they talk about these things and it becomes fact. It's not a fact. There's no such thing as a Stone Age. There's no such thing as a Bronze Age. These things don't exist. Esau made that up. Yeah, it's all lies. It's falsehood. All right, to build the lie of evolution. All right, it says 3.3 million years ago, and the invention of writing systems. All right, the earliest which appeared 5,300 years ago, because real recorded history by men, all right, is only around 6,000 years old. All right. That's why they had to invent this prehistory garbage. Because the actual timeline of recorded history is in line with what the scriptures say. Because according to the scriptures, the Lord created the earth and the people in 7,000 years. And then from then on, you know, you had Adam, and the timeline of the recorded history goes on. So we're really around 12,000 years into the creation of this earth. It's young, and that's what that thought process was, the prevailing thought process during the Middle Ages until the Enlightened period, when the so-called white man came in, took control of the scientific community and started pushing his occultic demonic madness, which I'll show. Alright, so that's that prehistory garbage. Alright, it's absolute madness. It doesn't exist. And there you go, the 3 age systems of division of prehistory into the Stone Age, followed by the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. These things don't exist. It's prehistory. It doesn't exist. Alright? It's fake. Straight up and down. Alright, so before I get into Charles Lyell, what I want to do is show you what I was talking about. It's 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, and this goes into what Genesis, the 1st chapter, tells you. About when the Most High, you know, well, really the angels of the Most High created the heavens and the earth, right? So we're going to get 2nd Esdras, the 6th chapter and 38. And this is what they want the people to be ignorant of. Yeah, they want the people to be ignorant of the Most High. Alright. And I said, O Lord, thou spakest from the beginning of the creation, even the first day, and saidest thus, let heaven and earth be made, and thy word was made a perfect work. And then was the spirit, and darkness and silence were on every side. The sound of man's voice was not yet formed. Because at this point, there was no people, there was no animals, there was no plants. There was just elements. Alright. Then commandest thou a fair light to come forth of thy treasures, that thy work might appear. So the Lord created light. Alright. And they study light, photons and all these different stuff. Alright. The Lord created that. Upon the 2nd day, thou madest the spirit of the firmament, and commandest it to part asunder, and to make a division between the waters, that the one part might go up, and the other remaineth beneath. Alright, so that's a division. You get what's here on earth, and you get what's up there. Upon the 3rd day, thou didst command the waters should be gathered in the 7th part of the earth. Alright, 6 parts hast thou dried up, and kept them, to the intent that of these some being planted of God, and tilled, might serve thee. So at that time, the Most High, there was only one landmass. Yeah, so when you see them talking all this madness about Europe was the birthplace of mankind, not Africa, they want you to get into an argument about whether it was Africa or Europe. It was neither. Yeah, there was only one great landmass when man was created on earth. Alright? And that's that. Man was created on earth. We're not here to debate about Africa and Europe. The Most High created man on earth, and it was one continent, if you want to put it on that. It was one landmass. Alright? And then if you really want to bring it to this age, everyone that's on the earth today came off a boat. Yeah? Noah and his 3 sons, they came off a boat that landed in Mount Ararat, which is in the Middle East. And then from the Middle East, you in Genesis, the 11th chapter, men were scattered throughout the earth from the Middle East, up into Europe, into Africa, and different parts of the Middle East and the East, okay? So that's really the beginning of the migration of people on the earth in the 2nd age, and this age was from the Middle East. This all this madness about they found the oldest bone in Africa and Europe, this is all just lies being built upon lies. And now you're going to get the Afrocentrists are going to argue about where man was created first, Africa or Europe, which is all false anyway. It's all false. It's all based upon Esau's BS. And look what you see here. It's the same BS. Some tooth or whatever they think, jawbone, some stupidity. Let's jump back over, alright? And it's key to note, these days that the Lord's talking about here that created everything in was likened unto 1,000 years with the Lord, okay? Alright, so the earth ain't that old, alright? And we're going to show that. 6 parts hast thou dried up, and kept them to the intent that of these some being planted of God, and tilled, might serve thee. For as soon as thy word went forth, the work was made. For immediately there was great and innumerable fruit, and many and diverse pleasures for the taste, and flowers of unchangeable colour, and odours of wonderful smell, and this was done the 3rd day. Upon the 4th day thou commandest that the sun should shine, and the moon give her light, and the stars should be in order. Alright, that's why everything in the heavens operates in an order. It's not chaos. There's not chaos in the heavens, there's order. The astrologists, they witness this order. Alright? Why is there even order in this creation? There's order because the Most High set rules and laws. Order. That's why the scriptures say, wisdom ordereth all things. It's the wisdom of the Lord that set the order, and gavest them a charge to do service unto man that was to be made. Upon the 5th day thou saidest unto the 7th part, where the waters were gathered, that it should bring forth living creatures, fowls and fishes, and so it came to pass. For the dumb water and without life brought forth living things at the commandment of God, that all people might praise thy wondrous works. Alright, because all things come forth of the water. Right? When you really break it down, everything that's alive is born in water. Like mammals are born in water. That's why you have the womb. The womb is filled with water. An egg is filled with water. Alright, an egg is filled with water, a womb is filled with water, and obviously fish and these things are born in the sea. They're born in water. So everything really comes out of water. Water is the base element for life. Then didst thou ordain 2 living creatures, the one thou callest Enoch, right, which means upright, and the other Leviathan, and didst separate the one from the other for the 7th part, namely where the water was gathered together might not hold them both. Unto Enoch thou gavest 1 part which was dried up the 3rd day, that he should dwell in the same part wherein are 1,000 hills. But unto Leviathan thou gavest the 7th part. The Leviathan is like a Godzilla type creature, or creatures, namely the moist, and hast kept him to be devoured of whom thou wilt and when. And that's where you get the old sea monster stories, man. Upon the 6th day thou gavest commandment unto the earth, that before thee it should bring forth beasts, cattle, and creeping things. And after these, Adam also, whom thou madest Lord of all thy creatures. Of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. Now Adam was a group of people, but among those people there was also a king among them, whose name was Adam. Alright? So the Lord created man on earth. Alright? And set everything from there to work together beautifully in harmony. The plants, the animals, the people, the fish, the sea, the air, everything's supposed to work in perfect harmony. But because of iniquity, the whole world is put out of course. And everything is out of order and destroying itself. Toxic, necrotic, because of iniquity. Alright? So that's the real thing. Now, once you get to the time of Adam, all you got to do is go to the book of Genesis, and based upon the genealogies, they can pretty much work out the history of the planet, the timeline of the planet, the biblical timeline, which, like I said, is under 12,000 years. All right, when you go into the scriptures. So Esau, during the enlightened period, he wanted to destroy the Bible and belief in the Bible, right, by destroying the book of Genesis, basically, by undermining the truth of the Bible, the truth of creation, the truth of the things that we see all around us. And he did that through the scientific community, through pseudoscience, man. And that's why the scriptures speak in 1 Timothy, because you're going to find out this is nothing new. You're going to, right, Salakia, yeah, so 1 Timothy's 6:20 says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust. Avoid profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called, which some professing have erred concerning the faith. Grace be with thee, because you had these Greeks like Pythagoras and all these guys. A lot of them guys believed in evolution, and that's what you're gonna find out. And Lord will, I'm gonna do another video on it. So these guys that came around on the back end, see, they professed to the world like Charles Lyell and Erasmus Darwin and Charles Darwin, that these dudes were some champions of the truth and they were unbiased and they were just searching for facts. No, they were all occultists and they had an agenda. Alright, these dudes were all occultists, and the doctrine that they're passing off as being science is nothing more than occult mystery religion doctrine, which goes back to the ancient world anyway. Right, so let's read through this information. Some of it was in the clip I showed you in the beginning, but I just want to read through it. So Charles Lyell's hidden agenda to free science from Moses. And you know, I've just thought of a scripture just now, man. The secret counsel of the ungodly. And this is all happening during the time when you got the formulation of the Illuminati, which operate within the realms of Freemasonry. And all these guys were Freemasons. And in the inner workings of Freemasons, what are they? All occultists. Alright? Psalms 64:2 said, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of the iniquity, right? The secret counsel of the wicked, because these guys didn't openly come out and profess that they're occultic and they believe in like Egyptian and Babylonian mystery religion. And no, they didn't say none of that, man. They come out and pretended like they were just scientists in search of the truth, which is a damn lie, a damnable lie. And they've caused a lot of evil to flourish on the earth, just like what the scriptures say. The scriptures tell you when Esau came into power, evils were multiplied on the earth. All right, because nobody could do it like Esau do it, man. All right, Charles Lyell's hidden agenda to free science from Moses. Now, why you say that? Because during the Dark Ages, science was what it should be. Science was the observation of the Most High's creation. They acknowledged that the Most High created all things, and that what they were doing was searching out the virtues of the Lord's creation. Okay, that was the you know, even though they like I always say, even though they went off on certain interpretations within the Bible, back then in the Dark Ages when Jake was ruling, they still had a certain respect for the Bible and certain key things within the Bible, such as the Lord creating the earth, such as the flood, and they observed these things on the earth. And then Esau came in and totally switched everything round to the demented, atheistic, demonic vibration that the scientific community is under today. So let's read. 19th century geologist and lawyer Charles Lyell, 1797 to 1875. Now when was the Illuminati? 1776? Alright? Is renowned for popularizing the idea that the world's geology reflected an old age of the earth, i.e. much older than the Bible's 6,000 year time frame of history. And like I said, it's really, according to the Bible, are almost double that. Okay, but it's still very short time period compared to what these cats are trying to throw out there, like 1 trillion and all kind of madness. Thus paving the way and providing some traction for Charles Darwin's evolutionary idea. But was Charles Lyell truly viewing the rocks from a scientific objective perspective? In his private correspondence, Lyell admitted to the strongly anti-biblical, anti-mosaical nature of his ideas. So this dude knew that he was just cold against the Bible, man. This scriptures say, look, man, these are they which rebel against the light. That's what they do. That's what they're about in the book of Job. That's just what they do. They're gonna continue to do that until the day that they're destroyed. It's as simple as that, man. Job 24:13. They are of those that rebel against the light. They know not the ways thereof, nor abide in the paths thereof. These dudes deal with deceit, trickery, darkness. Alright? It says in 1829, just a few months prior to the publication of the first volume of Principles of Geology, Lyell wrote in a letter to fellow old earth geologist Frederick Murchison, I trust I shall make my sketch of the progress of geology popular. Old Reverend John Fleming is frightened and thinks the age will not stand my anti-mosaical conclusions, and at least that the subject will for a time become unpopular and awkward for the clergy. But I am not afraid. I shall out with the whole, but in a conciliatory a manner as possible. Edward Bailey's biography of Charles Lyell writes that at that time, a few days in Paris allowed Lyell to enjoy a lecture by Prevost on diluvium and caves and a good logical refutation of the diluvium humbug. By the following year, we see that Charles Lyell has a clear agenda, i.e. to free the science from Moses. Alright, that is what Lyell wrote on the 14th of June 1830 in a letter to George Paulet Scrope. And like I said, this all goes back because behind the scenes, him and those like him were all Freemasons. They were all occultists. And they had a conceited effort together to destroy the validity in the eyes of the people of the Bible, which they've done a good job. Because even these Christians really don't believe the Bible no more. They believe in evolution. They believe, you ask the average Christian how old the earth is, they're going to tell you, yeah, you know, it's about 3 billion. They've already given up to that. I'm sure you may get into QR what will free the science from Moses, for if treated seriously, the church party are quite prepared for it. A Bishop Buckland ascertained, we suppose, gave Uri a dressing in the British Critique and Theological Review. They see at last the mischief and scandal brought on them by Mosaic systems. Probably there was a beginning. It is a metaphysical question worthy of a theologian. Probably there will be an end. Species, as you say, have begun and ended, but the analogy is faint and distant. Perhaps it's an analogy, but all I say is there are, as Hutton said, no signs of a beginning, no prospect of an end. Hey, but the Lord is going to bring you Edomites to an end, man. You damn devils. All I ask is that at any given period of the past, don't stop inquiry when puzzled by refuge to a beginning, which is all one with another state of nature, as it appears to me. But there is no harm in your attacking me, provided you point out that it is the proof I deny, not the probability of a beginning. I was afraid to point the moral, as much as you can do in the QR about Moses. Perhaps I should have been tenderer about the Quran. Don't meddle much with that, if at all. So he actually didn't have no problem with the Quran. And this shows you these people are Satan. His main beef, his only beef was with the Bible. And that's what it was all about, man, because the Quran is in agreement with these pagan philosophies, man. That's idolatry any damn way. If we don't irritate, which I fear that we may, though mere history, we shall carry all with us. If you don't triumph over them, but compliment the liberality and candor of the present age, the bishops and enlightened saints will join us in despising both the ancient and modern physio-theologians. And that's what's happened. Christianity has really accepted the false doctrines of these you know, these people in this regard. It is just the same time. It is just the time to strike. So rejoice that, sinner as you are, the QR is open to you. So these dudes are openly, like, you know, professing to be sinners, man. These dudes are devils. They're Satanists, man. All right. P.S. I conceived the idea 5 or 6 years ago that if ever the Mosaic geology could be set down without giving offense, it would be in a historical sketch, and you must abstract mine in order to have as little to say as possible yourself. Let them feel it and point the moral. So he's coaching guys on trying to get at man's in the with the who are bringing the scriptures. Lyell, the lawyer par excellence, was involved not in scientific investigation but political game, playing to ensure his uniformitarian ideas would be accepted by the church, even though he knew they clearly contradicted the plain teaching of scripture. Lyell's secretive scheming not only deceived the church to accept his false ideas, which they planted people within the church that undermined the gospel, but he set geology on a wrong path for over a century, as geologists now recognize. Lyell also sold geology some snake oil. He convinced geologists that all past processes acted at essentially their current rates, that is, those observed in historical time. This extreme gradualism has led to numerous unfortunate consequences, including the rejection of sudden or catastrophic events in the face of positive evidence for them, for no reason other than they were not gradual. And what's the main thing we're talking about there? Noah's flood. That's why the majority of the people on the earth today don't believe in Noah's flood, because the scientific community rejects the notion that such a cataclysmic effect could have happened and affected the planet, which the evidence is there to show that that's exactly what happened. But they reject the evidence and they go with this guy's assumptions. Their whole life is based on a lie. All right, but so the scriptures is fulfilled, because when you go back to, what was it, 2 Peter's, it tells you that that day would come when people would even deny that Noah's flood even happened. 2 Peter 3 and 3 says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of the Most High the heavens were of old. Now the majority of people don't even believe that. Whereas if you go back not too long ago, the majority of people did believe that. And the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. The majority of people don't believe Genesis the 1st chapter. They don't believe Genesis the 9th chapter. They don't believe these things no more. Even these Christians really don't believe them. They might even say they believe them, but really they don't believe them. They really believe in what the scientific community is telling them, because that's what they really believe in. And it all began with this guy, Charles Lyell, and his associates, which, like I said, they were all witches and warlocks, man, and masons. Alright, and in fact, I got the article right here. I got one, the Library of Museum of Freemasonry. This is from the London Museum. Exhibition, Freemasons and the Royal Society. Now, the Royal Society is like the main society of scientists, man, which they took over, and they openly admit the origins of the Royal Society. It said the Library and Museum of Freemasonry, latest exhibition, explores the links between Freemasons and the Royal Society over the course of history, man. They're a bunch of Masons, man. A bunch of witches and warlocks, man. It's a fact. Now, what I want to show you is, look, man, I studied biology and geology at college level, man. And the information that this clip is going to show you, I actually asked my geology professor, and it's true. These guys, they date the rocks by the fossils they find in the rocks, and they date the fossils by what rocks, strata of rock they find them in, based upon the geological column which doesn't exist anywhere on the planet Earth. It's all BS. It's all lies based upon lies. And because the same people are in control of the institutions that are in authority, these lies aren't questioned. And anyone that does question these lies is ostracized, and they're taken out of the light. That's why most people don't hear about the counter argument. They won't hear about the counter argument. You won't see that on the BBC or on the Discovery Channel. They'll only push that particular agenda that they've been pushing for the last 300-400 years. So I'm going to put the clip in.
Hi, this is the man from Modesto. Today I'm going to cut the legs out from underneath evolution. They basically have this three-legged stool that they always fall back to when they're pressed even a little, and that is the system of geological and archaeological dating, the tree ring dating system, and also the dating system based upon isotopes which decay to lead-206. Okay, so now basically this is number one. I'm going to go over number one in this video. A man named Charles Lyell made up a theory which he called stratigraphy. He later stated that he made this up because he hated the Christians who said that the world was 6,000 years old. That's why he made it. This theory is based on hate. He said the world occurred in exactly 12 layers, and they had different ages, and he gave them names like Pleistocene, Jurassic, etc., 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 okay? Those names are important, but what is important is that he made it up. Now, after many decades, years of drilling through cores by oil miners and etc., they've never ever found those 12 layers in the order that he put them. In fact, they've only ever found 4 layers immediately together in the order that he predicted, and they were actually upside down. Okay, exactly the opposite that he said they should occur. So he's been completely wrong, and no decent university anywhere teaches stratigraphy anywhere. If your university taught you that, go demand a refund. Okay, now, unfortunately, although this has been thrown out, Lyell's theories have been thrown out, what remains with us today, in an amazing system of circular argument, and this is in the scientific community, people, is that geologists and archaeologists date their items based on each other. Now, the geologist, if you ask him how old is this layer in the earth, he's going to say, well, there was a cup found in that layer, which was 50,000 years old. So therefore, this Earth is also 50,000 years old. That's great science. That makes sense to me. Okay, they found an item, and we're sure that it wasn't a burial pit, right? So if it's 50,000 years old, then this is also 50,000 years old. I am good with that. I'm good with that. Okay, now, here's the deal. When they asked the archaeologist, how old is this cup? He says, it's 50,000 years old. And they say, well, why do you know it's 50,000 years old? And he says, because I found it in a layer of earth which was 50,000 years old. Again, that makes sense. Except, wait a minute, they both rely on each other. Together, it doesn't make sense. It's a circular argument, and it completely fails. The cup is 50,000 years old because the dirt's 50,000 years old. The dirt's 50,000 years old because the cup's 50,000 years old. And all of this stands on this. That's where these dates came from. 100,000 years right here is this 100,000 years right here.
Right. You know, so you can see quite plainly, man, that, look, man, Esau, when you really put what he's talking about under the microscope, it don't add up. And the mainstream ain't gonna tell you that, because the mainstream is controlled by these same people, man. These same demons. And there's plenty of information out there. The world, the thing is about the truth is, you can make up lies and all that, but at the end of the day, the truth is going to be the truth, right? And you could try and hide it, but there's a big world out there. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of evidence to the contrary of what they're talking about. But because people don't look into anything and they trust this devil, he abuses that trust. That's why you can't trust the devil, man. Now, there's an artifact known as the London Hammer. Now, the London Hammer, also known as the London Artifact, is a name given to a hammer made of iron and wood that was found in London, Texas in 1936. Part of a hammer is embedded in a limey rock concretion, leading to it being regarded by some as an anomalous artifact. Asked how an obviously man-made tool could come to be encased in a 400 million year old rock. Well, the answer to that question is the rock is not 400 million years old. But you see, it was dated based upon their methodology, which shows you that what they talk about is complete bullshit, and there ain't no such thing as no prehistory and no Iron Age. When you go into scriptures, men had metallurgy from the very beginning. Oh, you don't believe me? Was it brass or bronze? See, the Lord, men always had intelligence, man. This is way back in Genesis 4:22. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. So way back then, they already knew about brass and iron, man. Men weren't stupid. Men were never stupid at any one time. They might have been wicked, but they weren't stupid. Men always had technology and knowledge, man, of this world. The one thing that men have lacked is the ability to choose that which is right, to do good. All right? So these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. This backs up what the scriptures is saying, man. But they're talking about 400 million years old. They're out of their damn mind. And what's it found in? Sedimentary rock. What's sedimentary rock? Sedimentary rock has to be formed underwater. Now, if the whole earth is covered in sedimentary rock, what does that tell you? That at one point the whole earth was covered in water. But you see, these guys, they want to be ignorant to this stuff, man, and so they can push their agenda, man. The Lord flooded the whole earth, man, and there's enough evidence for that. There's plenty of evidence for that, but they ignore that evidence because they want to push their bullshit, man. The whole earth at one time was covered in water, and you had a lot of dead animals and a lot of plants that were in that water, drowning and messed up, and that's where you get your fossils from. Your fossils are just rapidly buried animals, man. Buried in dirt. That's where you get the sedimentary rock from. That's where you get your sandstone, your limestone, your chalk. And they find fossils in there. Yeah, the fossils are all the dead animals, man. Let's get Genesis 7 and 19, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. And that's why they find rounded and rounded stones on the top of mountains, man. Because it was on the water. The water was just rounded. Stones are rounded off by water, man. These guys, man, they're liars, man. That's why we got to be delivered away from them, man, because the truth is very simple and it's there for everyone to see. But that's why you have to have faith, man. The waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beast and of every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, and every man. And that's why they find something called fossil graveyards, man. Just bare animals just stuck together. In fact, let me put a clip in.
What sort of catastrophe would be required to entomb over 120 species of marine invertebrates in fine-grained rock? This is not just a hypothetical question. In the Canadian Rockies, over 120 species of marine invertebrates have been found preserved in a famous formation known as the Burgess Shale. Most of these animals were soft-bodied, and many are so exquisitely preserved that you can still see the food in their stomachs. It appeared they were buried and preserved almost instantaneously. Moreover, the creatures were apparently buried in turbulent conditions because the fossils are found dumped at a variety of angles relative to the bedding. Fossil graveyards like this are found all over the world. Collectively, they point to catastrophic flooding occurring on a worldwide scale because the global flood recorded in the Bible actually occurred.
To find out more from Creation Ministries International, visit our website, creation.com.
Yeah, so you see them, and look, at the end of the day, man, this kingdom, man, is built on falsehood, man. It's a big scam. And we need to be delivered out of this kingdom because it's so corrupted. It's lies upon lies and false paradigms from every angle. All right? In our kingdom, man, there's only going to be truth. You ain't going to have to worry. The princes of truth are going to be in rulership, man, and only truth is going to be disseminated among the people. Right now, you got the devil in power, so everything is corrupted, man. You got to pick out the truth, man, with a fine comb. In our kingdom, the truth is going to be the only thing that's going to be on the plate. So you're going to eat it all up. All right, Psalms 144:7. Send thine hand from above, rid me and deliver me out of great wars, which represents tribulations. Because we about to go into some heavy tribulations. From the hand of strange children. Yeah, these Edomites. Whose mouth speaketh vanity, like evolution and the rest of this crap. And their right hand is the right hand of falsehood. They stand upon lies, man. Their whole system is predicated upon scamming, man. On hoaxing, on lies, on corruption. And that's why it's going to fall. And our kingdom is going to be built upon the truth. And the truth can never be against the Bible, and the Bible could never be against truth because the Bible is truth. Science could never be against the Bible, and the Bible could never be against science because the Bible is science. It's knowledge, it's real, it's righteous knowledge, it's truth. What these guys are pushing is not science, and they try to make it look like it's science versus the Bible. No, it's your bullshit that you're trying to, your occultic, demonic philosophies that you're passing off as science, and you're trying to use that to come up against the Most High, the holy angels, and the men of the Lord. But it ain't gonna work, because at the end of the day, what you gonna do when Yahweh Shai come through them skies? How you gonna explain that? That's what I want to know. You're gonna have a scientific, you're gonna be able to make, you ain't gonna have enough time to make nothing up in that day. You're just gonna go into slavery where you belong. And then that day, as the scriptures say, man, corruption is gonna be put out. And the truth is going to be declared, man. And just like the way lies upon lies upon lies is the way of this kingdom, in our kingdom it's going to be truth upon truth upon truth upon truth, and no lies. And that's a beautiful thing, man. That's a beautiful thing. The children are not going to be taught these lies in the schools. They're going to be taught truth from the day that they're born. They're going to know the truth, and the truth is going to be evident. Ain't gonna need to hide and lie and cheat and go behind and do secret this and secret that. And no, ain't no need for all that. Everything shall be done in light, man. That's why these guys have got to make secret plans, because they're liars, they're demons, man. Theatricality and deception, that's their way. Our way is the way of truth. We're going to give you the straight skinny because it's real and we don't need to hide. So anyway, man, with that, I'm going to say shalom.